Hi everyone, and welcome aboard to the webinar on AI implementation toward business goals. Together with me today, we are two of us, Rudolf D'Souza and myself. This is not a KMGN event. I want to be clear because all of us have so many hats. And today I'm representing myself, Moria from Home Global, and Rudolf, my friend and colleague and most appreciated knowledge manager, which I'll introduce in a minute, is representing himself, Rudolf D'Souza from Innowin Consultancies. So if you're in the right place, you're in the right place if you want to learn better on AI, KM, and how to turn them together into reality.
Thank you, Moria, for that nice short introduction. And it is my privilege and my pleasure and the honor to introduce my co-host, Dr. Moria Levy. And Dr. Moria Levy is a global thought leader in knowledge management, and she is the CEO of ROM Global, with over 25 years of experience helping organizations turn their knowledge management strategy into business value. She leads the international ISO 30401 standard, which they are going to release a new version by the end of this year. Maybe at some point in time, she could have a chance to speak about it. She is a co-leader of the Knowledge Management Global Network, KMGN, and her recent work focuses on KM-driven AI agents, advancing practical human-AI collaboration to improve organizational performance and learning. So with that, over to you, Moria.
Thank you. And now I will also formally introduce you. So Rudolf D'Souza is among the pioneers of knowledge management in India and in Asia, and I can say worldwide, where he continues to nurture the discipline as a core leader of the KM Global Network. Until recently, he was the CKO of Afcon's infrastructure, which is admired because of the manner in which KM is integrated into the organization's DNA. He's the founder and CEO of Innowin Consulting that focuses on helping organizations unlocking the potential value in their businesses through people, processes, and technologies. Not only, but nowadays a lot of AI. So, Rudolf, nice to have you co-hosting with me, and we will be interviewing one another. It's not that Rudolf is interviewing me or I'm interviewing him. It's a concert. It's a harmony. Please start.
Oh, yes, Moria. And I would like to tell the audience that if any of you have questions at any point in time, you feel it is relevant, you can actually put it in the chat, or you can unmute and ask the question if it is relevant at that particular stage. Like Moria mentioned, this is more of a conversation that we are having. And so let me ask you, Moria, one thing that is puzzling me, or it is actually troubling me. AI systems literally run on knowledge. They're trained on it, they retrieve it, they generate it, they synthesize it. So why is knowledge management the uninvited guest to the AI table? Organizations speak AI, but think they can do without KM.
Yeah, it looks like a paradox, and it can be explained rather very simple. And I'll give an extreme example, so please be with me, even though this metaphor can be unpleasant to hear. Think of us like the role of secretaries. Along the years, we still do our MOMs, manage our calendars. We even have more and more meetings from day to day, and do much more in the same time. However, these tasks that usually were ruled by secretaries, they exist, but we don't need the secretaries no more, or we need much less of them. The same thing can be said sometimes and is said by AI people thinking about knowledge. They do not deny the importance of knowledge. They ask themselves if in the new age, in the new era of AI, where technology is so advanced, they can handle without the mediation, without the bridge of knowledge management people, knowledge management professionals, and they will work with the knowledge? Yes. But with KMOs? Why? So that may explain why, yet it is important, but we look as less important in more than one organization. Rudolf, I want to ask you a question. Did you see any example of such recently in your work? You are muted.
Yes, Moria. Recently, I have been contacted by an organization that wants me to do an accelerated KM implementation. They don't have any repository in place, etc. They're a medium-sized organization. So they must be in the turnover in the range of 200 to 400 million US dollars. And they want to come out with an IPO and they want to use AI strategically. But suddenly they realize that actually we don't have knowledge management at our base because the consultants, whoever came in, said that we would need to, actually then work on a knowledge management process. So they have called me in and asked me to do an accelerated implementation. Now, Maureen, this comes with some caveats because, for me, knowledge management is not just about the KM repository, and that is currently what they're looking at, a repository, so that then AI can get scaled up. I look at the people involvement, the processes, the knowledge processes, also the tacit knowledge. Right now, they are only looking at the explicit knowledge. So that is a dilemma.
So what I'm hearing from you are actually two stages. Stage 0, where they thought that they'll take some consultant and do it all themselves, by themselves. And then came stage 1, where they said, okay, we need a KMer, but for something very tactical, for organizing the organizing a repository. Is that our future? Only organizing repositories where they can't do it themselves? Where do you see our added value? Because we don't want to be those secretaries in the metaphor that while the tasks will be out there, they won't be required.
Maureen, this, got me thinking when we were approached, and I started thinking of where do we KMers add value? And I thought there are four areas that I think of. Maybe other people can add on to what I'm talking about. So I'll tell you about the four areas first, then I'll come to some examples if possible. So first of all, you need to think strategically. Secondly, we need to start from the deep business needs. Then we need to add the organization context. And we should not forget the human perspectives. Okay, so let me take a step back and let's talk about thinking strategically. Successful gamers, in fact, I have for my philosophy is that if we are not solving business issues, we are not relevant. So successful KMers normally translate their work into the language of business value. They talk ROI, they talk speed, they talk risk, they talk competitive advantage. And I do not know if others noticed when I introduced you, I spoke about how you translate knowledge management strategy into business value for your clients. And I think that is the first thing. So actually, when we gamers have to provide the strategic ability, we need to start from the business needs and pain points, not from the tool. So if you see, that is the first thing that we need to look at.
Before you
I see you.
continue,
Yeah.
Let's emphasize on this, because this is one hell of a message. And people that are just now deciding to leave this discussion, that's fun, because this is an important enough message. If they got it, they already got added value from this discussion. When we look at system analysts, the IT system analysts, they want to come up with some new digital platform, or with some digital application, and they try looking at the needs that they see. But usually they look at the surface, because that's what they are instructed and educated to do. And I think that what you are speaking about resonates also with what you spoke about in the KMGN course, looking for the deep business needs. And it's not that other people in the organization cannot do it, but we as KMers already are experienced in looking at something not at the surface, but digging deeper in order to find the real needs and start from then. From there. Did I understand you?
Yes, Moria, perfectly.
So
That,
please
and
proceed.
when I meet the KMers, I get pretty upset when I ask them, "What are you doing?" "Oh, we are coming up with a lovely portal. We are adding AI to our KM portal." That's a practical thing. That the other day I was approached that we are adding AI for faster and accurate search, and they were focusing on the tool again. And actually, there were two triggers why they were doing it. They found that most of the users were now going to Chat GPT rather than to the KM portal. Secondly, management was pressurizing them to use AI because everyone was using it. Actually, the deep need was really they wanted to do better decision making with the available data, with the information. And that brings me to the third thing about the context. The organizational context is very critical. I remember when we were implementing knowledge management, we used to have this challenge. I forget the name we call it, but break the habit. Okay, shift from Google to the particular portal that we were using. And we used to actually track this. So similarly, today you have to break that habit, or actually, so if you provide value, and Chat GPT provides very generic answers, and the answers can keep changing. But if you've got an excellent KM repository, you are going to get contextual answers. So because you understand the context of the organization.
Again, I want to emphasize on this, because we have here what we call convergence to the average. What generative AI does very, very successfully is when you have a wide range of content out there on the internet, it collects it, it synthesizes it, it integrates it together, but it gives us the more common solutions, ideas, data for decision making. However, what you are saying is that in order, the way that an organization can make value is if it uses this knowledge, however, adds to it the context, whether by aside or whether as part of the conversation, adding again and again the context in which the question is asked and the information is required, therefore turning a medium level, an average answer, to a brilliant one, turning the raw data information into real business valued knowledge.
Yes, Moria, and I want to give you an example. 4 years back, when people are talking about AI, we worked with a university. We gave them a number of documents, and we asked them for actually what could be the surface thickness of the bitumen that we had to apply on a road surface. This was the construction context. 5 years back, AI could not do it, although everything pointed towards it. Today, AI can do that very smartly for you, and also be based on the what it is fed. It can also create some context. So there is a richness, but it has to be organizational context. You need to add that layer. Otherwise, it'll give you, like you mentioned, it can give you a generic answer, and it brings everything down to the average.
I think that,
Mm.
yes, before you continue, I think that is also a characteristic of our discipline, because KM is a niche discipline yet. So many times, if you ask KM questions, the answers will be sort of, because we are niche. And we really need to dig and add the context and add the guidance and guide even the AI, so it gives us the good solutions. And that happens to me again and again as a KMer. And I think that's what you're speaking about in the construction company or in a university need as well. Please continue.
Yes, Moria. And one more important aspect is the culture. So we have a Japanese automobile JV in India, and the Japanese culture of decision making is a lot about consensus building. They are slow in their decisions, but the execution is very fast because they have multiple rounds where they involve everyone in the decision making process. And a consultant was brought in, and AI just offered a solution. Now, it could have been the right solution, but there was a lot of pushback from people because the culture was ignored. It is so important when you look at the culture of the organization. Today, like the same construction company, when they're adopting AI, the experts started feeling that I am getting isolated. Y'all are thinking that you can depend on technology for the answers. We are an engineering company. You need my experience. You need me to provide you that, so you need to actually use technology as well as the human processes around it in order to be so contextual, plus the culture of the organization in order to succeed. So that is another perspective that I wanted to bring.
Wonderful. I'm here with Anat, and Anat and me have run a few years ago AI project in the National Agency for Social Insurance, and they found there that if you don't only ask AI, but if we capture the knowledge of the experts and ask AI and do it in a recursive manner again and again, we get much better solutions and a much better LLM engine that can answer our questions. So I think that relates very nicely with what you were speaking about. And I think it relates also to the culture, because when we speak about listen to the culture, listen to the people, it's not only because they are afraid and we have to help them, but because they have good reasons and good knowledge to push back. So the ability to bring in the human perspective is twofold, because one time it is because we understand that change management is a human is a human issue, and people, you have to work with them step by step. But the second reason is because when they're pushing back, it's for a good reason. It's because the humans have an additional perspective, and I think that they have additional knowledge. But I want here to relate to you and to add something here. It's not only the human perspective, it also opens a new need to what we usually were doing for knowledge retention. Because in order to protect the organizational assets, when people were leaving, or even not when they were leaving, when we were afraid of knowledge, looking at the knowledge risks, we would go to the experts and try interviewing them, discussing with them, and very gradually we learned how to capture their knowledge, and I'm saying very carefully, but both explicit and tacit knowledge. In this new era of AI, again, this idea of capturing knowledge as part of the ongoing work in order to have a solution that not only covers the documented content of the organization, but covers also the undocumented asset of the organization, whether tacit or explicit, can turn to be one of our main tasks as knowledge managers of the future. Would you agree?
I think that is true. And this is one area where we need to keep remembering that we need to go back to people. I was just looking at the chat, Moria, and Rachel has mentioned that at their company, they made a major effort together with a corporate university to map out all the strategic knowledge areas that show some vulnerability. Now it's important. Now see what she says. At this stage, we are reviewing our course portfolio to identify which courses already address these knowledge areas and which ones are still to be developed. This work is being carried out with the support of AI. Next, AI will help us to identify, based on employees' competency mapping, which knowledge areas they need to develop and which courses they should take for that purpose. So here you can see the interaction between the human and the technology, and that's the right way, I think, that we need to go forward. And she's also added that AI is being used for countless purposes, including the background check. So these are these are non-value adding work actually, that for background check, data gathering, reading documents with redactions, in fact, implemented learning path on digital fluency, so I think that is the right path in which we need to go forward. And at this, yeah, go ahead.
I think that yet we should stop and be very focused, because while these tasks are important, the question may be, do we need KM professionals for them? And the answer is, adding context again and again and again may be something that every knowledge worker may know how to do, but we have to educate them. That's why AI education will be part of our job, or someone's job that understands this. It's not a technical education, but adding context and adding the information about the culture is a job of someone like a KMer. Also, looking at capturing tacit and other types of knowledge that are embedded in people is not something that people know, even though they have the knowledge. We have learned that in organizations that try to capture the knowledge of the experts, whether explicit or, of course, tacit knowledge, they couldn't do it without the KM professional. So it's not only where knowledge will be required or people will be required. The main question we are asking ourselves today is where KM professionals will be required. Because as we said at the beginning, it's not the same question. Because many places, okay, people will handle alone, but people are not handling good the context. People are not handling good because they don't have education, and people won't be handling good the knowledge capture because it's a profession. Please continue.
Yes, Moria. So I think this is a great progress that we have made in looking at how we this thing. There's also, I want to share something in one of the companies which I'm closely associated with. They had done an excellent job in terms of the lessons learned, lessons capture, etc., through a facilitated process. And now they felt that, okay, can we use AI for that? Now AI is very good at prompting and so on, etc., and all, and then they did that. Now I was recently talking to the executive who was working on this, and he told me that, if you recall, we used to take 3 weeks to a month to actually capture the lessons and then write it up, etc. Today, AI does a phenomenal job. It does the recording, and it also, in case there's a language barrier, because in India we have a number of languages, etc., and so on, it is not a hindrance, and it writes up everything. Now, the context part we have to bring in, so our work becomes easier. But there is an issue. With experts, the prompt, etc., is good, but they are feeling very dehumanized. They're saying, why is it that I have to answer? They wanted a facilitation process. And I felt that you continue the facilitation process, but you use AI as a layer for the capture and for the difficult manual task where there's no value added work that one would be looking at. So at a later stage, we will talk about AI agents, what you have done. So, but I just wanted to ask you about what has been your experience, because I know you have created an AI agent for tacit knowledge capture. And what has been your experience in this?
Yes, I would agree with you. And while you were speaking, it just slipped of my mind this exact example, because yes, we can build AI agents that can carry on technically some of our roles. However, I found up till now that while they may do it, I won't say perfectly, because AI has flaws. A, we sometimes have to correct them. And B, I remember the first time I sat with an expert trying to capture her tacit knowledge. She was a very good project management engineer in very complicated, complex missile projects, very big projects of millions of dollars. And after sitting with her 75 minutes, and I was facilitating, but I was facilitating in a way that I dictated her the questions of the generative AI to her, and I asked her for her answers, and I only fixed and corrected the questions when I saw that they were incorrect. And I asked her afterwards, and at the end of these 75 minutes, we had new knowledge that she didn't know that she knows. The perfect definition of tacit knowledge, because she was very good in identifying risks that were unseen. And that was something that we came to, and we found really two ways of her doing so that she didn't know how she does it. But after these 75 minutes, I asked her how she felt. And she said, so cold. The experience was cold. And why am I saying cold? Because the human touch was missing. And that resonates wonderfully with what you've said. Please continue.
Yeah, and so Moria, let me ask you something now that you have triggered this, because when I sit with very senior people who have a lot of tacit knowledge, technical experts, if you ask them a question, they answer in stories. They give you anecdotes. So this is something that actually AI will capture literally, but it may not get the nuance that the expert wants to. So I can share an example. There were certain mistakes that was made in a particular project, and I had gone to another expert, an external. He was an external consultant to the company, and I was asking him about how do you handle this and how do you tackle this, and he then gave me a story about how when he had started his career, this used to be a process, and but he did not tell me directly the process. He just told me that how the managers used to do this, do that, do that. And from there, I had to actually make out, understand what he was actually wanting to say. Do you think AI can reach that stage where it will be able to?
Okay, I want to separate your question to sub answers, because first of all, when I even mentioned this AI agent, which captures tacit knowledge, the way it does it is by asking several questions, including the request to share anecdotes or stories. and it knows how to analyze these stories and to find in between the lines the rules, the principles, which is the knowledge. Because what's the deep knowledge? It's the rules, the way we act in specific contexts. So yes, AI agents may perform such tasks. They won't have the human touch. Now, the second part of this question is, and I do agree with Raquel that saying that the AI and the human ones can coexist, yes. But we are saying that each of them have their added value, and there is place for the human facilitator. And yes, a KM is a good facilitator. And furthermore, in the context of capturing tacit knowledge, he's the only facilitator that exists. No other person in the organization can do it, because that's what we're looking for, where we have the added value that no one can take. However, we have an additional added value that I found. We as KMers, KM professionals, know to bridge between stories, anecdotes, ideas, fragments of ideas, pieces, and to turn them into a language of AI agents that can be a decision support tool for the professionals. And we do it already in several organizations. So this work of not only capturing the tacit knowledge and putting it in some RAG, however, turning it to be such a new algorithm. Why am I calling it a new algorithm? Because it's not input for AI machine code, but it's input for an AI agent, because we know to bridge, to structure, not only to capture this knowledge, but to structure it into forms that AI agents could even turn into be decision support tools. And the good news here, that's a bonus. But please don't cite me, because people will kill you and me together, especially the IT people. In this new world, we even, in some cases, don't need the IT people. Because when we structured things, turned them into algorithms that went to IT applications, up to today, we needed the IT people to build the machine. In this new world, after we capture the knowledge, we structure it, we can feed the AI agent if we know how to do it, if we educate ourselves, and it's easy, it's no coding, with no dependency on IT. Big smile to all of us. Back to you.
Moria, the IT people are definitely going to kill you. So let me ask you then, in terms of, okay, what are the other, what are some of the other, ways in which IT would actually invite KMers to come in? Because normally, management looks at AI as a technology tool, so that's where it normally starts. Therefore, it is the IT department that starts the pilots and other things, etc.
Yes.
So why should IT department call you in, especially after your statement?
Okay, so first of all, I won't share with them the statement yelling out in the streets, yes, I don't need you no more. But that's a good question, because even if we know that we have added value, it doesn't mean that IT would say, okay, you have added value, please come in. There should be a very good reason for them to open the door for us. And yes, they have the money and they have the infrastructure, and they have the authorities, the permissions to add people in or opt them out. So there are two important ways where I think that it is easier to open the door. One of them has to do with our past of success experiences in other knowledge management initiatives. In unit, let's just You, Tim.
I've muted.
Thank you. In units, in cases where we have already proved ourselves successful, we can come with a business manager because he already or she already have our trust, and we can speak directly with them and then go to IT. When we come with a business manager, the door is open. A. The second reason why doors may open is a specific window of opportunities that nowadays is open. It won't be open for a long period of time, but we have now a special, window of opportunity. And that comes because of the reason that I'm sure that this statistic everyone heard about, 95% of the pilots fail. In 2025, and where there was a very big survey, and the bottom line was that 95% of the pilots of AI fail. And that's very uneasy to, I don't know why someone is sharing. So that's very disturbing. And organizations are taking a step back. And organizations understand, and there's a pressure on IT to do something different now. So while a year ago and 2 years ago, they said, okay, we are here with the education people, we are here with ourselves, we know how to run pilots, we know how to build IT systems. So this is another IT system. As 95% of them are failing, they are stepping back and they are open to hear us. And we have to come in before they regret. I hope that answers this question.
Yes, Moria. Yeah, that is right.
But I think that this can connect us back to your opening point, because you spoke about the business needs. And I think that the main way we can change pilots is working not on each pilot that is suggested, that looks glamoury, that looks shining, but looking at those that have a real operational pain point, understanding not only first of all, the operation pain point, and the deep business need, and start from there. And I want to ask you, Rudolf, can you expand and speak about what are the main gaps that you find that are, let's say, that are a barrier between pilots and investment to business impact? Why do we see this barrier? What are the problems?
Moria, when I was looking at some of the pilots, what I found is that, like I mentioned earlier, one is because it's a technology, people normally put it to the IT department. But importantly, we always take a simplistic approach. What we will do is that we will start with one department and we will see where we have a good data set that already exists, because it's technically easier. So organizations will look at their SharePoint, their CRM, their ticket systems and say, we have data here. Let's build something on top of it. The result is a very capable tool answering questions, but which nobody uses. This leads to many RAG-based experiments and existing knowledge bases or documents. So the retrieval augmented generation experiments are the perfect example. And what you mentioned was that technically elegant, often impressive demos, frequently solving a problem that wasn't the bottleneck. It's like this: you create solutions for policy documents, but if people have not read the policy document, like my daughter recently started working and they have now implemented an AI system, and she asked where is the system in terms of travel and other things, etc. and all, because she's not read the document. But there is no context for her because she's not read the document. She is not able to link up. So she gets answers which she is then has to read the document. So I think this is an example really where we find that we do something. So it aligns with the business domain, but not with the actual business pain points, the point that you had brought out. You know, so knowledge management, and that's where we come in because they may not understand the expertise that is because expertise is distributed across the organization. Okay, where does the tacit knowledge reside? Why are certain documents trusted when others are not? And how a communities of practice actually function. So IT testing is also far more complex than traditional software testing. AI pilot testing is more complex because what happens every time you query the system, it could possibly give you varying answers based on the data that has been inputted. So evaluation often requires human intervention and judgment, the point that you had brought out. So without structure, validation, and governance, organizations struggle to bring AI into production. Secondly, is that they take only one department, one small experiment, etc. Organizations are actually complex organizations. They are messy. So knowledge is distributed, information is interconnected, the data lies in, so it's not an elegant, very this thing. So data could lie in different places across the organization. So how can you actually then scale a pilot if you've done it only on something which is very elegant? So we need to look at this, that the organizations itself are complex and they're like ecosystems. And that is, I think, where people forget it. And they take something small and they display it, it looks good. But when they try to scale it, because it is all interconnected, that's where it tends to fail. Again, the data could be messy. Take the case of ESG data. So there have been a lot of attempts in order to, so people look upon the data for ESG as they take the GRI report and they create some wonderful tools in order to just capture the data. And then they say, okay, if you want it TCFD based, or you want it GRI based, or you want it BRSR, which is in India, we can provide you the reports. But actually, the data does not match. So they now have actually got to do audits on that particular data because in a particular different context, the data is shown differently. So this is an thing that when pilots are done, it is we need to really understand that AI piloting is very different from software testing, and you need to involve more people. You need to involve multiple functions. That's how the organization behaves. So we need to look at mimic organization behavior when you are doing AI pilots. So I think that is a clue that we get towards, why AI pilots are not scaling. What's your
So,
thought on that?
so what I'm hearing from you, that it's not a technology-based issue, but it's more the context, speaking about the full context of the organization, the framing of it, the surrounding, and also speaking about the second interpretation of the word context, the specific data. When it's in a pilot, it's overfitting data. So we tested it, it looks wonderful. But when we try to scale it out, it suddenly doesn't fit, and the testing wasn't checking it in all its aspects. And what we see here is things that I heard in knowledge. We had problems of data of knowledge sharing between units. We have problems here again across units. We had problems with overfitting. We have again problems of overfitting. We had problems of culture. So that's why maybe it's not only KMF here, but many KMers have the skills because we have dealt with similar attributes in our KM projects.
That's right, Moria. So just as you're talking, it struck me, what would be the difference between a SAP implementation and an AI implementation? Just out of curiosity, have you had some experience, expertise? Maybe in our audience, we have people who have done a SAP implementation. And because once upon a time, I was in charge of a SAP implementation, and I remember the trouble that we had. We had to actually study each department and then see the interconnectedness. And I feel that this is where AI pilots are going wrong, because we just take a standalone function. We do a project because the data is elegant. But when you actually go to implement, if the context is not there, if you don't understand, the linkages.
I think,
yeah.
Yes, but I think that it may be a bit easier than what you're suggesting, because not all problems deal with all units. And trying to scale up, I would be more modest. I would say that for me, a win is not something that the same pilot scales for so many different units. I would say that for me, a win is an AI pilot that turns to be a production decision support tool. And that should be our aim. And in order to turn it to be a decision support tool in production, I don't really have to take things that course units and that have a lot. I do have to acknowledge that I have messy data and knowledge within my unit. I have to acknowledge that part of the information and data and knowledge resides in the heads, in the brains of people. So we should integrate, as I shared from the example that Anat and I have ran. Actually, Anat has ran it, I just looked at it. The idea of capturing experts' knowledge, capturing knowledge from the machine again and again and again, training the LLM based on it, and only later on going out with something that is combined. So starting with a deep business need, testing it or training it both on documented and undocumented knowledge, which we capture, training it, testing it not with overfitting, that would be the main three differences that turn a pilot to be a production project. And not everything has to scale up, scale wide, it has to scale up. That would be my conclusion.
Great. Good you brought this up, because it gives a lot of hope to the pilots that are already in place, as long as we remember that it should scale up, and maybe the others will take a little more time. So just then, how do we now position KM and KM professionals within the organization, given the context with what we have discussed so far?
Yes. So I think that we are speaking here, first of all, we understood already that we have added value. However, I believe, and we believe, that Rudolf shares this understanding with me, that we have here, again, a special time in life where it's not only that knowledge matters, but KM can reposition itself and can be regarded as much more strategic, essential component of the organization. However, I have to explain this idea, because it won't happen only because we want it to happen. And I want to be very clear on this, because I hear and read a lot of posts and a lot of conferences. I hear people saying Yes, we are all dealing with knowledge now in the AI era. So KMers are more important than ever. And we will be more important and things will be wonderful. Yes, I'm not sure. That's not enough. Because what I'm hearing is that people are even saying, and I read it here and here. Last week I read a post, I won't say whom's, saying that on APQC they said that A, B, and C. And in this survey of another company, they said this and this and this. And here they said this and this. So KM is in a great place. People, we are resonating, we are echoing what we want to hear, and we are saying what we want to happen. So before I start explaining my point, I want to say two things. A, it's a potential. It won't happen only because I say it. We will have to work for it. B, it doesn't come only because of the definition of AI as being knowledge-based. Because even if we will have 1,000 rags in each organization, that doesn't mean that knowledge management will reposition itself. So it's not mandatory, and it won't happen only because we want it to happen, because we believe in knowledge and AI is about knowledge. So what will happen? The first stage is that let's go back, let's forget about KMers, about KM professionals. Let's look for a minute at the business units which we serve. And look at them. They also are now in stress. And those who are not in stress will be stressed and will be challenging problems in the coming future. Because in the age of generative AI, the accessibility of worldwide information and knowledge, data information and knowledge, is a new level. Therefore, everyone can use it. Everyone can use it as building blocks. And those who won't go out and use generative AI, not for the organizational information, looking at the organizational information, looking at the worldwide best practices in their profession for their tasks, if they won't start using it fast and effectively, they will be in a problematic place. Therefore, the first stage that I'm seeing is that organizations, business units need to educate themselves and need to how to look out and use generative AI much better, because even though each one of us, doesn't matter if he's an engineer, she's a high-level senior manager, or any other role in the organization, most of them know to use generative AI, but don't know how to use it for business needs. So so that can be a place, but that's not repositioning KM yet. That's education. Repositioning KM will come because these business units have to redefine themselves 2 stages. First time, not to stay behind others, as others are using the outside, the external, worldwide business best practices. So they'll have to redefine their added value, their value proposition. If we years spoke about the digital transformation based on inside data and on digital capabilities, we are now looking at a new form of this digital transformation based on knowledge. We are now in the knowledge age. And the business units will have to redefine their added value, first of all, based on the knowledge and information of the world outside there. We can be there to help them, to lead them through these processes. redefining their value proposition based on their knowledge. 1. 2, they cannot settle for that. They have to do another jump. They have to take another step forward. They have to also, I have to explain why they need to take another step forward. Because while they are looking at the worldwide best practices in their occupation, to their profession, all their competitors are doing the same. So maybe they're not behind, but they're not before anyone. And in order to succeed, we can't settle for only doing what others do. So we have to take another step forward, and that is to start basing ourselves on our existing knowledge. That would be stage 2. Again, redefining the value proposition. Again, we spoke something like 40 minutes ago about capturing our tacit and explicit knowledge. While experts have tacit and explicit knowledge, they don't know how to capture it and structure it and turn it into shared knowledge. And stage C, may I say, they have to move to a new stage where they not only use best practices worldwide and not only base it also on their unique knowledge, that will bring them to a wonderful place, but to a static place. They have to, in order to continue and add value, not only do it as a one-time job, they have to move to not only utilize knowledge, sharing it, protecting it, accessing it, but also to ongoing creating more and more knowledge. So therefore, again, we are here in this strategic point, helping them to use the worldwide knowledge, to extract their knowledge, capture it, structure it, and to move to a new era where they continually create more knowledge in a more structured way. All the time, helping them both in the operation level and in the strategic level, helping them redefine their value proposition. If we can find ourselves taking and even leading these tasks of redefining the value proposition with these 3 stages of knowledge, we are in a totally new era of knowledge management positioning.
Very deep. I made a lot of notes, Moria. Thank you. This reminds me of when I started my career. Now, that is decades ago. Computers were first coming into business. So I was in India, and so this was in the late 80s. I was a salesman selling computers. Okay, so that time people only had the big data processing machines, people like the insurance companies, governments, railways, etc. And now we were looking at the personal computers. So we had the workstations and we had the personal computers. So from what you spoke about, I'm also drawing on this that if we have to, sort of create in this new era, let me draw upon my experience. So what happened initially, everyone spoke about computers. Oh, computers are coming and it's going to change everything. People are going to lose their jobs, we will not be thinking anymore, and so on. And it was a difficult sell initially, but what happened is that the moment people started getting computers into their organizations and they started using it. So the first point what you mentioned is that, people need to become familiar with generative AI. So people started playing around with the computers. Now, as a vendor, hardware vendor, okay, what we used to give them as a package only how a Word, an Excel, though it was called WordStar, that time is called Lotus 123, and we call it DBase. Okay, and we would actually sit and program it for them and give it. For a chartered accountant, actually create an entire financial accounting package. Slowly, there started coming external packages, but when people tried to look at it internally, there was a lot of customization. But what happened as people started experimenting within the organization, a whole change happened. They realized contextual to the organization, what can we do and how can we use these particular softwares in our context. So slowly the values started coming out, and with this way of distributed working, people started experimenting with computers in their own departments. And IT was basically the owner of the hardware. Basically, they used to order the hardware, etc. And all there was not much integration in those days. Okay, and that was the second stage at which they started off. And the third thing that happened is that slowly people saw the value, and then external packages started coming in, so software, etc., and all that, and then people started using it and they were harmonizing it. So that's how the organization started scaling up, and computers became ubiquitous, and then people no longer spoke to, oh, in our company we are introducing computers and we are using it, because now it became a way of life. And so uh, maybe this is something that you have, we need to get more and more people to use AI. So I think ROM Global, you'll have some KM courses
Uh,
that you would
I,
like to.
I think that, Rudolf, you are taking us to the next stage, because if I was dreaming about our repositioning of the KM profession to somewhere that is 2 or 3 steps higher than what it is now, the question is, how do we prepare ourselves? And you were speaking about several ways how we can prepare ourselves. And the first one is educating ourselves, because we do use AI for personal needs. However, let's use them in KM context, or in engineering context, or in speaking in systematically, deeply, not here and there tactically. And yes, thank you for mentioning it, because indeed we have a course that takes these 2 first stages of both learning and experiencing how to do it ourselves. Before we go to others and tell them this is the way you should work, we first should know it, should know how to run such, to use it by ourselves, to use it deeper by ourselves as KMers. So yes, we would be delighted if some of the people here want to register and to join our course that will start a month from now on May 14th, and discuss how we can do better KM work in the age of AI, based on AI. So yes, thank you for that. And that takes me to the second level, because while the course is not only theory, but is also practice, it speaks about generative AI and teaches people how to build generative AI agents to do their work better, to capture their tacit knowledge, to capture their explicit knowledge, to structure it, and turn it into AI decision support tools. So first of all, we can be role models for others, but B, before we go to the engineers or the chemicals or the bankers and tell them you should do ABC, it is essential that we know how to do it ourselves. And here again, I would love to share, here we go, our set of AI agents for KMers that can be used to some degree free of charge by each one and one of you. This includes 10 AI agents for KMers that help the KM tasks to be more effective, may I say. For example, when these are for working with documents, for running, facilitating lessons learned sessions, for retaining, for capturing and retaining tacit knowledge, for running change management programs, and this is only a list. By the way, those who will choose to use these, we enable them also to have access to our 250 best practices of knowledge management, also to deal with AI, but not only. Let's see if I see an AI example here. Gen AI, but we have a lot of best practices, how to do better KM, and those who are interested, of course, are welcome to call and speak. But I think that we don't want to end this session without speaking about, we have a candy, we have a surprise, we have something that Rudolf and I are working on the past few months and may be of interest to each one and one of your organizations. Rudolf, do you want to speak about it, please?
Yes, in fact, I got a lot of questions on my LinkedIn post because I showed of football and use a lot of football terms. So people ask me as to why are you using football terms? And so those who are in the soccer world will realize, okay, there is a World Cup that is coming up 2 months hence. And I consider myself, that I love gamification and I pioneered it. So we have actually come out with a gamified soccer environment to help organizations to use that opportunity that opens up at the World Cup during coinciding with those dates in order to actually run a campaign internally in the organization where you can educate yourselves on AI in a short period of time. Then you can actually take pilots and then you can actually expand the pilots and you can grow it. And so we run this campaign. And sometimes we need gamified approaches because 2 weeks back when Sean Callahan was doing our advanced KM course, he spoke about the William Gibson moment. The future is already upon us. It is just that it is distributed unequally. So actually in organizations, you may actually have talent, you may have people already working on AI, but you're not able to discover them because it is a central IT-driven pilots are being put. But through this entire gamified approach, probably we will be able to identify hidden talents. We'll be able to involve more people. What we spoke a lot about organizations require more in frictions because they are complex organizations. So through this short program, it's 6 weeks or so, we should be able to actually ensure that you are able to implement AI in the organization very quickly. So I thought that is something that we could talk about.
I want to add on that. You see, you asked me, Rudolf, something like 45 minutes ago about opening the door. How can we open the door? And I want to say that World Cup, and I learned now that I should say football and not soccer today. So I'll use the term football. That World Cup, that first of all, World Cup is something of interest of many people in almost all organizations. And while even AI, IT has, and the training department have their consultants, have their programs, have everything. If each one and one of your KMers come in and say, okay, do whatever you're doing, but I have a package for 4 weeks or 6 weeks for the time that everyone in the world is speaking football, where we can gamify AI in a deep way, gamify it. So, and it won't cost too much because it's an external package and we don't have to build it ourselves. And I'll tell you, they don't know it, but it will speak about deep business needs and about how to hold the conversation and how to do responsible AI and how to look at the business needs and not only other needs. However, it will be gamified because it will be short clips, because there will be lotteries, because it will use football metaphors. I think that if each one and one of you come up with this package in their organization, they have a good chance of opening the door only for there, and there they're already in the game. And once you're already in the game, people will listen. So we're working on a package that has 4 weeks of 4 lotteries and 4 games and 4 video clips and another very deep business detailed task that is evolving for the depot people. And we'd really be glad to share the information with those who are interested later on, not part of this webinar, because Rudolf was modest. So I'm sharing, and Anat, of course, that's sitting with us was part of this package, building a lot of parts. And I'm not, you know what, I can show, no, I won't show it to you, but it's really wonderfully integrating the AI with business, with football all together, and making us all smile.
I am excited already. I cannot wait for the kickoff.
Again, you're using the term kickoff. That can be for both of us, for both terms. That's the wonderful thing, that if we use metaphors correctly, we use the same term for both business and for AI and for football at the same time, and make everyone smile. Rudolf, some ending words?
Moria, I'd like to just ask whoever's here if they have any questions. We've really not done justice to the chat, so
okay. So
anyone has questions?
Before we add our ending statements, does anyone want to add or ask or protest in any way?
Remember, if you protest, I'll give you a yellow card first and then later on a red card. Moria is anyway going into the IT hell because of her statement, but maybe she'll edit it out from the recording so that she's still welcome.
No,
with the
no
IT
one's
team.
asking. Okay, so if no one's asking, your ending words, Rudolf?
I'm always a firm believer that it has to be, whatever we do has to have a business orientation. Today, it is more important for us to also look at the organizational context and keeping the human perspective. AI is going to get absorbed over time, like computers were absorbed. So how we can actually help that transition and thrive in the new era is something that we are all working towards. So over to you, Moria.
Thank you. I think that we as KM professionals have an opportunity here. It is clear. However, the next move is ours. And furthermore, what we spoke about today is not the limit of what we can achieve. It is simply the beginning, a foundation from which we can reach further, aim higher, and turn more ambitious, knowledge-driven visions into reality. So I think now is the time to pause the dreaming, start working, and then dream again, and realize and dream and realize and dream and realize the sky is the limit.
Thank you everyone for your participation. We really appreciate it.